Here's a question for you based upon what we saw at the end of the Barnsley game. Do you ever foresee a starting lineup that includes Paik, Awata and Leonard? So welcome back to BCFC Royal Blue. And I think it's fair to say that the EFL League One fixtures are coming thick and fast. And on Saturday, Birmingham City are at home to Bristol Rovers. And we'll want to keep that winning mentality going, hopefully with another victory. Now, in this podcast, myself and Matt are going to preview the game. And as we always do, we'll have a chat about Bristol Rovers, a bit of information about them and their players, and give our suggestions on the team that Birmingham City might put out. So Birmingham City, Matt, against Bristol Rovers at St.Andrews on Saturday. So what's your thoughts?
So Blues are back in good form, aren't we, Dad? We've got that momentum back. We've won the last 5, 3 in the league, 2 in the cup. So it's nice to have that winning spirit back, because we had a little bit of a blip there, didn't we, with the sort of Shrewsbury and the Northampton sort of games. Mansfield, yeah. So it's nice to be back on winning form. Feels really nice. And face Bristol Rovers on a Saturday. They're currently sitting in 18th.
Yeah.
And I did a little bit of research on them, as we always do for these videos. And last season they finished 15th, and the season before that was 17th. So they seem to be a club that just sits in that sort of bottom half of the table. If you're going to compare it to the Championship, a bit like your Stoke, your QPR in recent times, your Swansea, your Cardiff maybe. You know, I know some of these teams have had blip seasons, but generally speaking, they kind of sit in that bottom half. I think Bristol Rovers...
Birmingham City before we got relegated.
Exactly that. And I think Bristol Rovers seem to be that sort of lower end League One team, but not having a great season so far. Bristol Rovers, they average 0.94 points per game, and we put a video out a few days ago about our next 5 fixtures, so you're going to hear a few little statistics we mentioned there, and they've only won 1 in their last 5, so you know, they're crying out for goals, Bristol Rovers. You know, we mentioned on that video, Dad, they don't score a lot of goals and they don't concede a lot of goals, but definitely goal scoring is their big problem, because 0.94 goals per game is really poor, and they concede 1.44. So again, just logically here, if you're not scoring as much as you're conceding, you're going to have a long season. So they're going to want to turn that round. And I'm expecting them to come to St.Andrews, Dad, and do the low block. I'm expecting them to park the bus. And I think for Blues this weekend, we need to go at them with speed. You know, we need to keep the ball moving quickly. We can't get stuck in this sideways horseshoe around the back where we have 80% possession and only 1 shot on target. I think we need to pick the pace up. We need to pass that ball quickly, because when we do, that's when we look dangerous. And if someone's going to come to St Andrews and do the low block, I personally think speeding the ball up gives us a significantly better chance of winning these games, because we look far more dangerous when we do. Yeah,
and also as well, if we score goals and take our chances early, it opens up the low block, because that means now they have to come out at us.
Exactly.
Northampton proved that they kept in the game right till the end of the game, didn't they? And they got that killer blow right at the end, because we didn't put our chances away. We didn't kill the game off. And I see Bristol Rovers as very similar opponents in terms of the way that they'll probably set themselves up. Going back to your points, which are good ones actually, they do struggle for goals. They've got the 7th worst, or the 7th lowest goal scored in the league, with 17 goals in 18 games. Like you mentioned, that's less than 1 per game. The only teams below them are Crawley, Burton, Exeter, Rotherham, Wigan and Stevenage. And their defence, they've got the 8th worst defence in the league. They've conceded 26 goals in 18 games, and believe it or not, some surprise teams below them. Bolton have conceded more goals. Crawley, Cambridge, Burton, Blackpool, Peterborough and Shrewsbury. So they don't score many goals, and they are prone to conceding goals, which explains exactly why they're in the position they're in.
But you mentioned Bolton there, Dad, and Blackpool, but the difference is they score a lot of goals.
Yeah, so they're in high-scoring games as well. Exactly. You're right, but it does show that they're still vulnerable at the back. Their away form, again, they've got the 7th worst away record in the division, so the 6th. They got 7 points away from home, but then so did Northampton when they came to St Andrews. So my only issue is that they are likely to set themselves up that way. They're not going to go gung-ho at us, and they'll try and catch us on the break. But I'm much more comfortable now since Chris Davis made those changes in the league against Exeter, when he brought Bielek to right back and brought Ben Davies back in. We look a lot more solid at the back. That wasn't the case against Northampton. We had I think Laird was at right back, and Ben Davies was on the bench. Form wise, they've obviously lost a number of games because of their league position. They've lost the last 2. The last game they lost 3-0 away at Leyton Orient. And the game before that they lost 2-0 at home to Blackpool, which was a surprise. Well, maybe not a surprise, but Blackpool that's their first win for a long, long time after that. Then they prior to that, a good result. They beat Mansfield 1-0 away.
That is a good result.
And 2 draws before that. They drew 0-0 at home to Crawley and 1-1 at home to Lincoln, who are a decent team as well. They lost to Reading just before that, and just before that they beat Shrewsbury, lost to Huddersfield. So you can see they're a bit hot and cold. At the moment, in their last 6 games, they've lost 3, drawn 2 and won 1, including losing their 2. So they're not in great form.
No.
But these teams have got nothing to lose coming to St.Andrews. Every team wants to beat us. Every team sets up to make it difficult for us to beat. And I think you made such a great point there, Matt, that it's in our hands. If we start with a high tempo and dictate the game, that is going to open up chances for us. What we've done at St.Andrews in particular is that we've just been really slow and sluggish to start and allow the other teams to almost dictate what we do. That has to change, and I think a team like, if we get 1 or 2 goals against Bristol Rovers, that means that they will have to come at us, and that could open us up for even more goals. So
we'll come on to the Blues team in a couple of minutes, Dad, but that's the key to me, is the speed. Let's keep shipping that ball really quickly, and we will cause these a lot of problems. There's no doubt. They leak goals. They don't score many. They're going to come and do the low block. Let's shift the ball quickly, and I think we'll cause these problems. But as you know, Dad, I like to check out social media. I like to check out what their fans are saying and what the club are. And there's a mixed bag, really. I mean, a few fans... generally speaking, the fan base of Bristol Rovers at the moment is pretty pessimistic for the reasons exactly that we've listed. There's quite negative football. They've only had 2 shots on target in their past 4 games. That's not in one match. That's 2 shots on target in their past 4 games. Right. And they lost 3-0 to Orient at the weekend, Dad. And I don't know, I'd have to get this validated or confirmed, but they only had 2 touches in the Orient box the entire game as well. Okay. So they're clearly having a problem going forward. There's a really big sort of negative football here, and as I said, the fans seem a little bit disconnected from it. And
interesting.
There was a couple of fans that said, "Oh no, this is going to be 8-0," and there's a couple of fans that said, they're not invincible. They've been beaten this season. So there's a couple of fans who are trying to rally that positivity, but generally speaking, a pretty disgruntled fan base, and they're pretty upset with the negative style of football. And there seems to be a bit of a disconnect between the fans and the manager. Their manager's a guy called Matt Taylor.
Yeah.
And he said in a recent interview, this was a couple of weeks ago, granted, so they have had a couple of games between that. He said that he's happy with the togetherness, he's happy with the team. He said what's holding them back is their availability and the disruption. Once they get that back on track, he expects them to pick up their form. But then the fans are talking about a lack of structure, a lack of plan, a lack of identity. They're sort of calling him out a little bit. So again, I've noticed a pattern on social here of a massive disconnect between the fans and the manager, which is always a bit of a concerning trend, isn't it, when they're not on the same page?
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned a little bit earlier there that some fans think we'll get a load of goals, but then we get that every team we play, the opposition say, Birmingham City are going to try. But we haven't steamrolled any team. There's not a single match where we've steamrolled anybody. Yeah. We've all our games have been pretty close.
What's the biggest victory or gap? Like 2 goals, 2-0 win. That's pretty much been our biggest victory, hasn't it?
Yeah, we beat Wrexham 3-1.
If you exclude the cup games, just the league here.
Yeah. We'd have to go through all our fixtures, but we haven't.
I think 2-0's the biggest gap we've had, just in terms of.
I don't think we scored 4 in a game, have we?
In the cup against Shrewsbury, in the league, no.
I'm talking
in
about
the league, no.
The league. So actually, and that shows you that because, as we said before, teams really up their game against us, they make it really difficult.
And the low block is just a killer. Yeah, so sometimes we really struggle to break it down.
Don't forget as well, Bristol Rovers, when they do their research, will be looking at our match against Northampton and what Shrewsbury and Charlton did to us away, and all these type of things will be factored into it. So it's down to us to break that block, isn't it? Just a couple of strengths. Obviously, the research that I'm looking at will show you some of the good and bad things about teams. So that they're good at aerial duels. So that tells me they've got a bit of height in their team, maybe a bit of physicality. And also as well, as a strength, it says stealing the ball away from the opposition. So it doesn't necessarily mean to do anything with it, but they're good at getting the ball
They
off.
Steal it and then give it you right back.
But here's some weaknesses, finishing scoring chances. But as you mentioned, they don't make many scoring chances at the moment.
Yeah, creating scoring chances would be a problem for them.
Defending against through balls, that might work in our favour. Defending against skillful players. Keeping possession of the ball, they're not good at, and so that tells us that we're good at keeping possession. They're not. We're going to get high possession, but as we know, we need to make that possession count. Defending set pieces, they're poor on as well. So there's lots of little things for Blues to exploit, but they do like playing a lot of long balls as well, and attacking down the left. Their formation, 7 times this season, Matt Taylor set them up as a 4-2-3-1, but 4 times as a 3-1-4-2, so they're versatile. I think that what they'll do against us, they'll probably end up playing that block, won't they?
It'll be 3-4-1-2, but the 3 will turn into a 5 in the defensive shape, as it always does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then that creates the low block because you have the wing backs on the sides. Then.
So I think that's that will happen. You're right about the goals as well. They're leading goal scorer, and they've got I've got 5 on my. I've got 2 goals. Promise Amacher, Shake Ford, Scott Sinclair. He's been around, hasn't he? Scott Sinclair, Luke McCormack, and Jamie Lindsay, and they got Promise Amachina. He's got 3 assists. And Grant Ward. So there's not a lot of goals in this team. They have had a few arrivals though. I mean, in terms of into the team. So Promise Amachiri, they bought him from Fleetwood for £590,000, and that's a lot for a team like Bristol Rovers. And he's obviously their top scorer and their top assist one, even though it is low. Isaac Hutchinson, they bought from Walsall for £300,000. So they've spent the best part of £1 million on 2 players there, which is a lot for this league. Jamie Lindsay, they got from Rotherham on a free transfer. He's a centre midfielder. Raul Sotirio from Leighton Orient, a centre forward on a free. Clinton Mola from Reading, who's a centre back. But the big departure for them was Anthony Davis. He went to Huddersfield, as we know, £510,000. They lost Lewis Gordon. He went to Chesterfield. He's a left back. Luca Hoyle, he went to Shrewsbury, and also as well John Marquis also went to Shrewsbury. He scored against us a few weeks ago. So they've lost some fairly decent players. Their top goal scorer last season was a chap called Chris Martin. He's still at Bristol Rovers, but clearly he got 16 goals, but he hasn't got as many goals this season. Obviously Anthony Evans was the next one. He went to Huddersfield. He had 10 goals. Luke Thomas had 7 goals. He's still there, and John Marquis had 6. So they've lost a few goals as well. But I think clearly that's showing now, as you mentioned, we've alluded to. They don't score an awful lot of goals.
But they have got a couple of experienced players.
Scott Sinclair.
We talk about, remember the guy at Mansfield who scored against us? I always forget his name, who scored from the free kick.
Oh, Lee Gregory.
Lee Gregory. We talk about experienced players sometimes doing some damage against us, don't we? They've got a couple. They've got James Wilson, who's a centre-back. He's about 34, very experienced. Taylor Moore, who's been playing right back for them this season. Jack Hunt. He's a good player, but I believe he's been injured for the majority of this season. He hasn't been playing. Okay. I think he's on the way back. But what I think speaks volumes, Dad, is their top 3 rated players are their 2 centre-halves and their goalkeeper. Yeah. That tells me
they're under pressure a lot.
They're under a lot of pressure. Yeah. And the reason why they get so highly rated is because they have a lot of the ball and they see a lot of action, doesn't it? So, you want your strikers and your attacking mids to be the highest rated players, because that means often that they're creating chances and scoring goals. If your centre-halves are, that often means that they're the ones under pressure. Generally speaking, that isn't necessarily a rule, but it tends to be the way it goes. And I think they're going to try and dominate aerial battles. They're going to want to go long. They're going to look at the Northampton goal. They're going to look at various other areas where we get caught out. But, we have more than enough quality to win this game. Yeah. And I know it's not a marker, but I do like to present it. And apparently in the bookies and on the websites, Blues have a 75% chance of winning this. Again, we're tipped to very strong favourites to come out as a win here.
Yeah, I mean, you'd expect us to be favourites. We've got a good home record. We haven't lost at home yet, and we're sort of on a good winning run. But it's just always going to be in the back of Blues fans' mind about what happened at Northampton, and I think we'll be a lot more comfortable if we can get a couple of early goals just to settle ourselves down. Just to talk about their away record last year, I always look at their previous season to see what they're like on the road. So they played 23 games in the league. As you said, they finished 15th with 57 points last year. But away, they did all right. They won 8 away games last year, 3 draws and 12 defeats, and they only won 8 home games. So they're a team that don't do too bad on the road. So we got to be wary, and I think we always respect the opposition. I know that some fans think, we got to just walk over these teams, but people said that about Shrewsbury, they said that about Northampton, and even possibly Mansfield, Charlton. All the teams we've dropped points to. Previously Blues fans were saying 4-0, 5. We haven't done that this season. But 1-0 still gives us 3 points.
We're not playing the yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter whether you're 1-0 or 10-0, it's 3 points at the end of the day. I don't think we've been playing that kind of football where we are going to batter teams, because I think we'll score a lot more goals in the Championship, believe it or not, or if we were a Championship side, because we haven't been great this season at the low block, breaking teams down. We tend to run out of ideas. Sometimes we go side to side. We do that horseshoe, the famous horseshoe around the back, whereas when we go direct, and not direct as in hoofing it, just forward, not sideways, we tend to do a lot more. So I'm hoping that we can start to pick up the pace this weekend, and I'm sure we'll do just fine. So brings on to the Blues side. Should we go through it?
Yeah, let's do it. So we'll go from back to front as always, starting off with the goalkeeper.
Easy one for me, Allsop.
It's got to be Allsop, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Okay, left back, Dad. So we have Cochrane out, and we have Buchanan, who I'm not too sure is 100% going to be ready for his league game. So what are your thoughts for left back?
I've put him in.
You put him in?
I put on the basis that Chris Davies gave him an hour. He seemed to come out unscathed. Why not? I mean, we have got other options we could potentially play there, but I've gone for Buchanan on the back because I was really surprised to see him. I was really unexpected to see him in the team against Exeter in the EFL Trophy, but I think he'll start.
I want to see Buchanan or Taylor Gardner-Hickman.
Yeah.
But I think Chris Davies is going to choose Laird.
As left back?
Yeah, I think he might put Laird there.
Yeah, he could do.
Because he's got, well, again, I know we're jumping the gun here, Dad. I think he's going to have Bielek covering the right side again, right back.
Clara and Davies.
So then who does that leave if he's not fully confident that Buchanan is ready to have that full match yet? It's either going to be Laird or Taylor Gardner-Hickman. I've got a feeling Chris Davies will favour Laird.
It's interesting we talk about left back because we've never had to talk about that this season. It's just Cochrane.
I know.
So it shows you how important Cochrane is for us as well. Hopefully he won't be out too long.
Yeah.
I've gone for Buchanan, but you are right. It could be Laird, could be Taylor Gardner-Hickman.
Yeah.
He could slot in there as well.
I back you. I want to see Buchanan.
Yeah.
I've just got a feeling he'll pick Laird.
I've put him in.
If it isn't Buchanan, I'd rather see Taylor Gardner-Hickman, just being brutally honest. But as I say, my gut tells me that he's going to utilise Laird.
That'd be interesting. Interesting to see what Blues fans think. I think Buchanan. Matt thinks possibly Laird at left back. Let us know in the comments below what you think. Yeah. So that brings us on to our midfield then. So I think Paik and Iwata in the middle. Just
really quickly, because we kind of brushed past it, let's do it one more time. So Clara and Ben Davies in the middle and Bielek on the right.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So you think Paik and Iwata?
Paik and Iwata, yeah.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
So that brings into our three. We're going to play the 4-2-3-1. So I've gone for Anderson on the right. I've gone for Stansfield on the left.
Yeah.
And again, if Williamson's back, I think he'll play Williamson if he's back from his bug or his illness. If he's not, I think he's going to play Luke Harris again.
Okay. And then you'll have
Alfie May, number 9.
Stansfield on the left. Okay.
So, just to confirm, Stansfield on the left, Williamson in the middle if he's fit, if not Luke Harris.
10,
number 10. Anderson on the right, and then May in number 9.
Okay, I agree with all that, and I think that's the team that I would pick as well. I think hopefully Williamson will be back. It was a bug, wasn't it?
Yeah, him and Dykes apparently have been taken down with this the winter bug that we've all got. I mean, me and you have had it, haven't we, Dad?
Yeah,
We've been poorly as well, so I think it's just hitting everyone. So hopefully they're back.
Here's a question for you, based upon what we saw at the end of the Barnsley game. Do you ever foresee a starting lineup that includes Paik, Iwata, and Leonard?
I would love to see it, but for me that would be a change in formation, wouldn't it? Because none of them are a 10, so you have to have you have to have them as the centre mids. But that means surely a formation change to accommodate the 3, doesn't it? I would love to see Paik, Iwata, and Leonard in the same team. Whether Chris Davies sees it that way as well, or whether he wants to make things change to suit that, I don't know. Because Iwata and Paik are outstanding. I think Iwata gives you the physicalness, but he links up the play. Paik just is Paik. One touches, gets us on the transition, moves us quickly, doesn't want the ball, but in a really effective way. And Leonard gets us going forward. He gets us on the attacking momentum. He pushes it forward. Whereas I think Paik and Iwata are great players. They're prone to going more side to side. So it's a difficult question.
I think it could work. Again, hear me out. Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
So I think we could go for a 4-2-1-3. Right. Okay. Now listen to me out. Okay. So the 4 would be Bielek at right back, Clara, Davies, and obviously Cochrane if he's fit, or Buchanan. Then you'd have Paik and Iwata sitting in front of them, and then Leonard as a 1 as the attacking midfielder, and then you'd have a right left winger and a forward man. So your 3 would be your Anderson, Stansfield or Hansen, and Alfie May up front.
I mean, that is
quite... But then where's Williamson
exactly
going?
Where's the
you see that's the downfall with playing Mark Leonard. One player has to be sacrificed, but then maybe Chris Davies has been keen to play Williamson out wide. I don't think he works there.
No, definitely not.
So
everyone knows that Williamson's either a 10 or he's not playing, and I think everyone kind of agrees Alfie May's a number 9.
And actually as well, I gave that as an example of how it could work.
I mean,
how it could, but then if it means that Williamson is not in the team, I'd prefer not to do it.
Well, what you've just described basically is kind of what we have now, but Leonard in between attacking mid and 10, isn't it? Is what you described. So, I mean, why not put Leonard in the 10?
Yeah.
If Williamson's not fit, I mean, would you be happy with Leonard in the 10?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I would. Would
you rather Leonard over Luke Harris in the 10?
But the only thing about having Leonard in the 10 is Leonard is also good, as well as he's good on the ball going forward, he's also good at breaking play up as well. And I think in the number 10, you're a bit more forward, aren't you? Yeah. So you might lose that edge. But then if you've got Paik and Iwata behind you, who cares,
True.
But I know it's difficult. I'm interested to see what Blues fans think about this. I think there is a way that could actually work, but it would mean sacrificing a player. And for me, I don't want that player to be Williamson I didn't name him in that group that I've just done there. I need to give it some more thought, but I think it would require a very slight tweak on the formation, but it would require, if Leonard's going in there, another player is going to clearly have to come out.
Chris Davies must see the difference that Leonard makes when we're on the pitch. He must see that we go a lot more attacking. He completely transformed the game against Barnsley. We completely went on the front foot and we started to go at him. And I just want to. My question kind of got a little bit blown out there with the answer you gave. If, let's say on Saturday that Willem Williamson's injured, Luke Harris versus Mark Leonard in the number 10, who are you picking?
I love Mark Leonard. I think he could do a great job in there, but Luke Harris has got pace. So he's got the pace that you need for a number 10. He just needs to be more productive, Luke Harris. And I think, again, he's a young player. He's developing, but he just needs to. His decision making is not at the place where Mark Leonard is at the moment. I think he's going to be a great player in the future, Luke Harris. I really do. But as of today, I'd pick Mark Leonard.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There is a player in Luke Harris. He has got ability. He's very technically gifted. He hasn't got firing this season. I would say he's been poor, just in terms of his decision-making. He's been a bit sloppy. I personally think it's a no-brainer. If Willem Wilson is injured, I think Leonard should take the 10. Personally, would it work? I think we'd have to give it a go. But what have we got to lose?
Yeah.
He's a quality player.
Yeah. I would like to see him in the team, and he makes, like you said, he makes such a difference. When he was playing against Exeter in the EFL Trophy, he just looks like he's running the game. And he came on, didn't he, against Barnsley?
It changed the game.
And at that point, we still had Paik and Iwata on the pitch. So all three of them were on the pitch. That's why I raised the question. I thought we were a lot more solid with them there. But I say it is a bit of a conundrum for Chris Davies, because it does change things, doesn't it? And he's obviously training and setting them up in a certain way. And he does like that formation, doesn't he? With a number 10, a number 9, 2 wide players, 2 central midfielders, and 4 at the back.
It's the 4-2-3-1.
Yeah. So if he could find a way of accommodating that, he's obviously shown us that he's prepared to move like players around, like Bielek to right back. No one saw that coming. Exeter, did they? Everyone thought, well, that's Laird's place, but he's obviously done it. So there must be a way of bringing Mark Leonard into the team.
My question is he creative enough? Because Mark Leonard is obviously in the 10.
Who created?
Mark Leonard. So Mark Leonard is a traditional centre midfielder who can do defensive quality side of the game just as much as he can do his attacking side of the game. But the 10 is specifically there to create chances and cause havoc between the lines.
I think he can. I mean, he put Stansfield and Alfie May through against Barnsley, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And he scored goals last season for Northampton as a number. What was he playing as a midfielder?
Centre mid.
Yeah, centre mid.
So
he's creative. He's got vision as well. He knows when to play a ball, and I think that's something that could really work for us.
Also, do we run the risk of losing him if we don't give him a bit more game time? I'd hate to lose Mark Leonard.
I don't think so. I think he's firstly he'll be on a really good contract for quite a number of years,
money wise.
And secondly, he's going to play. We're going to get into that stage of the season now. We're already in it, really. We're getting these games 3-4 days, and there's another game, and then there's going to be injuries, and we're going to get suspensions. All the squad are going to be used, and we, hoping now that because of our strong squad, we've got a deeper depth of squad than other teams, so they may struggle for players where we have got players that can come in.
Do you know what I love about Mark Leonard as well? This is a really small thing, but every time he kicks off, he's the first person in the middle of the ruck, backing his teammates. I love that. Yeah. That is such a good quality. Just get amongst it. He always runs over, even against Exeter in the Cup. Someone booted the ball. It didn't boot it, but he kicked it sort of. I think it might have been Taylor Garden-Hitman while he was on the floor, and Leonard went straight over to him and started moving.
That's what you want to see.
Backing your teammates. That's what you want to see.
You want to see that as well.
But yeah, I mean, overall, Dad, I think on paper, the bookies, everything points to a Blues win. I do think we will win this game. I think it's going to be hard fought. I think it's going to be how quick and how assertively we can break down that low block, parking the bus. And if you watched our score prediction video, you'll know our predictions ahead of this, but we will reiterate them now. I've gone for Birmingham City 2, Bristol Rovers 0.
Yeah, and I've gone for a narrow victory. I've gone for a 1-0 victory. I know that some people are screaming at the screen now, saying, what are you talking about, 1-0? It's Bristol Rovers, you're Birmingham City. I get it.
Yeah, Shrewsbury?
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just being realistic in that, we've seen what happens at St.Andrews when we allow teams to basically block us. We don't play to the right tempo, and it's always a bit more of a challenge because they just want to win at St.Andrews, don't they? So I've gone for a 1-0 win. But do you know what? 1-0, 2-0, 10-0. It's all 3 points, and as long as we get those 3 points, I don't really care what the score is, to be honest.
Yep, exactly.
But what do you think, Birmingham City supporters? Let us know in the comments below what you think the score will be. If you're a Bristol Rovers fan and you've come across our channel for the first time, we always welcome comments from opposition fans as well. So please add your comments below. If you did like this podcast, then as always, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't checked us out on our social media channels already, pop along to our X page and our Instagram page. And if you like to watch your podcast or listen to them on Spotify, you'll find us on there now, and you'll see the handles appearing for all of these channels on the screen right now. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell notification if you want to be notified every time we put a podcast out. So I hope you've enjoyed the podcast, and myself and Matt will see you on the next one, all about Birmingham City.